never make it this far. They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitted for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot. Wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it goes.
I love it.
Welcome to this week's episode of Off the Grid. As always, my name is Christian Marsh, here with my best friend, Race Liberante.
What's up? What's up, everyone? In the house today, because it is like one of the first shows we've done during the day.
It is pretty dope. I'm awake as fuck right now.
Yeah, man. We got the CEO of Rep with us today. My partner, buddy, best pal of mine, Jackson Gardner. What's up, Jackson?
Thanks for having me, guys. I feel weird because I'm wearing a polo.
It
feels awkward.
We do things a little different around these parts here, bud.
I know.
Not
Maybe
like
change
in Tennessee.
We're all actually kind of dressed normal for us.
Yeah, this is what I wear every day.
That's what you always wear when we're together.
Pretty much.
Yeah, 100%.
Hoodie.
Christian's on point. There's literally no difference there at all. That's perfect.
This is
That's
you literally in the fucking intro video. This is the hat I was wearing. So
exactly.
When you're as fucking bald as I am, dude, it keeps the sun off your head.
Yeah.
You have a personal brand, though.
I do.
I mean, everybody knows.
Yeah, people. It's hard to miss me. I suppose that's it's good and bad.
Jackson's the suit.
Jackson's the suit.
He's the suit.
Dude, I think I already said on another episode of our podcast, but I worked with Rico Abreu, the sprint car racer, and just like walking through a pack of people, everybody knows who he is. I think it's like super helpful for your brand to have something that makes you stand out.
Yeah,
just
well, when I was a musician, that's what it was, and then I moved into racing and became a Kart Dad, and now it's like khaki shorts and polos and race t-shirts. That's pretty much all I own anymore.
It makes sense, dude. What's it like being a karting dad? And give us a little bit of like, for people that don't know, about you and your daughter racing together. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was a touring musician for 15 years, songwriter for a publishing company, and that's what I did full time. And it was great. It was a great career. And then right before COVID, as much as I hate talking about COVID, it's pertinent to the story. I had 2 record deals on the table and a big investment coming into the band and the new record we were doing, and things were about to blow up. And then 6 days after the showcase that put those deals on the table, president came on TV and shut stuff down. And I looked at my wife and said, I bet you I'm going to be getting some phone calls about this stuff in the next few days. And it was just one after, just a constant kick to the gut every hour or two from people just pulling out of the deal, and everything kind of fell apart there. And so I bought a simulator and started doing that in my free time, because I grew up racing motorcycles and raced motocross and road course stuff and flat tracks. So no stranger to it. Grew up in a motorcycle shop wrenching on stuff. And then Tony and Race started Race Factory that year. And I was buddies with Tony, and Race and I were slowly becoming friends. And I bought a used 206 off of them, and I bought it for myself. I was going to go race go-karts. And then my daughter Kennedy, we went to get in rental karts, and she fell in love with it and said, I really want to do this. So for Christmas, I surprised her and put her number on the go-kart and gave it to her for Christmas. And ever since, that's how we've been spending our time. And it's awesome. Being a Kart Dad has been one of the most rewarding and challenging things of my life. It's been fantastic, and it sucked me right into the industry. I mean, that's what happened. We were kind of waiting for the music industry to turn back around and wake back up, and I was still playing here and there, but it's not the same. And I kind of burned out on it anyway. And then Race and I became buddies and have a lot of similar visions in our respective disciplines. So him and I started talking and kind of moved into the business, started working for the team and managing the team. And then we started Rep to kind of help mend the racing ladder through our experience with the kids that we work with, one through my daughter and a lot of the kids in the racing team. And my life's completely different now. I went from being the cool guy on stage to being the suit, but I love it.
in the suit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, karting's got to be a little more thrilling than music, I suppose. At least in some respects, right? I mean, is there any like takeaway that you get from music that you've brought over? Not necessarily with rep, obviously we'll get into that, but even just with like being in a community based activity like racing and music kind of share that. Is there anything that you've noticed similarity wise between the two?
Yeah, I mean, they're both highly emotional, in different aspects, but it kind of comes from the same thing. I love the community aspect. The community is very similar to my band that I toured with, right? Like, Race and I spend hundreds of hours in the car together, and with our drivers as well. I like the aspect of it that, when I was touring and we were touring with a lot of big bands and opening with thousands of people, I was under a lot of pressure, and I learned a lot from that because we were also putting those events on. So I was managing the events and the production, and then we'd get on stage and I was nervous about playing and having to be able to manage all of those different emotions and the pressure. I've been able to take that skill, I think, and bring that into racing with these kids are doing something that's incredibly challenging and incredibly hard. And as much as we want to win, it's also about, helping them be the best versions of themselves on and off track. And I think I learned a lot from the music industry, being able to try to keep myself together and the band and all the different things that we were dealing with, sleeping in a van, driving for thousands of miles, and then hoping we didn't screw up our entire careers in one night, which is possible, and then move on to the next one, so, and then take that skill and try to teach that to kids of how do you, and then manage all the other aspects of it, social media, branding, there's a bunch of different things that transfer right over to racing that people don't realize. And I saw a lot of parallels when I started racing with Kennedy, and that's kind of what sucked me in.
Hell yeah. And then somehow you ended up at the racetrack hanging out with Race.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
well,
Race is fortunate.
I actually met him before we started Race Factory. I was working for J3 guys, and at the time, my partner Tony was a customer of mine in my little local kart shop deal. And I was in there. He's a chiropractor by trade, so I'm in there getting some work done. In Jackson at the time's helping him out with some projects. And we met that way. And then one of these days we're randomly at the go-kart track, and Jackson's out there driving around in jeans and a sweatshirt with a helmet on. And I'm like, who's this guy? Like, he's not too bad. Like, I'm just watching this dude drive around, and I'm like, oh, clearly he's new.
Yeah.
But, he's getting around pretty good. And he comes out and it's Jackson. I'm like, what? What are you doing? And he's like, yeah, man, I got into go-karting. So he got in because of Tony. And then, as like he said, as this was all right during the middle of COVID, like this Race Factory started during the beginning and middle stages of COVID when we weren't racing. Like, I was bored one day and just, we're going to do this way. So, obviously got with Jackson and became friends. And then we were just BSing about some dreams I've had for the sport and some projects I've always wanted to fulfill. And they were most of them are in the media realm with, TV production, things like that. And, we start talking about that, and Jackson's been a part of TV shows, music festivals, has a lot of experience going through some of these things that, us racers really may not, if we've devoted our lives to racing. So we kind of started coming together on some projects and developed Rep. And I wanted to have Jackson on here today because Rep is, really it's not something that you couldn't do for yourself for the most part. But Rep was founded to really just try and bridge the gap to the different forms of motorsports to help these kids advance their careers. And it's really just the help I wish I had when I was going through my racing career at an early stage. And, to help me get with big brands and help me learn about B2B deals and all the things that you're going to have to learn at a professional level. I mean, we've become super good friends with James Hinchcliffe over the last few years, and just getting to know him more and understanding his life and how a professional racing driver has to survive and to really what actually keeps their ride before the performance side of it on track is really what the project is meant to try and just mend that gap so the driver can focus on the driving.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as just like a quick note is, I know that we do a lot of talking on this show about like karting as a stepping stone and karting taking you to a professional career path. And that's one of the very few things outside of like trophy girls that we've gotten backlash on is everyone's like, oh, you think of karting just as a stepping stone. And I just want to make it really clear, like, we don't think of karting as a stepping stone, but the reality is that if your goal is to be a professional race car driver, this is absolutely the first step. So like, it's,
and any
you
kid
know,
that sit there, or any family that says like, oh yeah, even the industry members, like everybody that's an industry member at this point was a racer at another, and we've settled for bettering this industry and being a part of it, and putting some roots down in the ground in karting. And I'm no different, and Jackson's no different. Like, it all starts at the karting ranks, but at the end of the day, the reality of this is all this. If there's no shot for a driver to make it as far as their dreams can take them, if there's no path for that, why the hell would you even start? Right? Like, why would you get into go-kart racing if one day the dream of being a professional athlete is not even real? Why would you even start? You would just try and find something else. So as much as we all obviously love go-kart racing and obviously enjoy our time here, and people like myself are lifers in the sport and came back to karting because of what it is, this is still also the reality of it is a career path, the foundation of a career path in motorsports.
Yeah. Well, and the hope through all of this, though, is too, I mean, I think is to grow karting in general and hopefully maybe make aspects of it more professional as well. But 100%. That's not, like you said, it's not always the end goal, right? I mean, people want to become professional race car drivers. If we can develop the sport of karting for what it truly is, I mean, the barrier to entry is reasonable, right? You can go race a go-kart just like you can go race a dirt bike. And I grew up in motocross, and it was always, when I came into karting, I'm like, we're missing something here, guys. We're missing a major, major, major opportunity for this sport. And I'd love to see that grow as well. But I also don't want to see kids not get into IndyCar. I think it would be cool to see IndyCar drivers race shifter karts on the weekends they're not running IndyCar, with big purses and things like that. I think that there's a major aspect to that, because I think the barrier to entry is reasonable, and it's a sport that is cool and can be kind of that motocross vibe. But, for some reason it hasn't. I'm still trying to figure out why. But, I think that with rep in mind, as we want to develop these drivers to help make that step up the ladder simpler and educate them and make them be not just great drivers, but great humans that also take what they have to spin positive vibes out into the world and succeed in the racing community and make it stronger, but to pull karting along with it, not to just jump into an Indy car and forget about where they came from, but like, let's pull karting along with those kids to grow it as a recognized professional sport, because it is. I mean, these kids are doing stuff that nobody's doing. I'm impressed by them constantly. I've been working with two of our drivers over the past 2 weeks on their sponsorship deals and coaching them on how to do the PR stuff. And both of them just impressed me in completely different ways. The ways they're aged. It's just amazing the things they think of. One of them's doing sales calls to try to get sponsorship to go do a big super final overseas. And I give them a deadline that's like a week ahead, and I get the thing that I asked them for the next day. What 11-year-olds doing that?
Well,
it's crazy.
I think that the sport kind of breeds that level of maturity, because you're giving such a large amount of responsibility to these kids. Just like the act of racing itself, it forces you to really understand the weight of things early on. And I think that that's obviously one of the benefits of racing go-karts that maybe you don't find in other sports, is like that level of responsibility really does teach kids, the value of hard work, the value of, keeping your shit together and doing things that are difficult to get ahead. I think that that's important too.
Yeah. The boring work, I mean, my daughter, I told her, hey, I'm not rich. Like, if you want to race 2 go-karts this year, you got to raise some sponsorship money. This is the budget that I can give you, and this is what we can do with it. And she went out and she raised almost $10,000. I coached her and helped her through it, but like, I'm not making those phone calls for her, because if she wants to do this, you gotta and that's kind of one of the things that really helped us develop Rep 2 was just the idea that we know how to do these things. And while we can't do them for a kid specifically, but we can coach them how to do it. And then if we're working alongside them through that process, it makes it so much better, which brings us to the ability to bring value to their sponsors to the racetrack. So, it just breeds that whole community. And I think it's going to really help prop up karting, not prop up, but grow the community, and let's drag it along with us as we do this.
Well, a big topic recently discussed, I believe last week on another show, was the ability to bring outside funding and sponsorship into North American karting. And I think that is, honestly, listening to it, I'm like kind of chuckling because I'm like, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And that's exactly what we're pushing for. And it's just a matter of the user inside the industry being able to capitalize on what these companies and what these people are actually looking for. I mean, there is so much opportunity in the karting paddock in North America for B2B deals. It's ridiculous. Like, think about every kid's parents at a USPK. It's like, one, like if I see you every weekend, it's crazy to me that like this is what I do for a living, and I see customers, of other teams and people that you've become friends with over the years at the same events you're at, and you're like, wait, this is my full-time job, and I see you the same amount of time. Like, what is it that you're
like
how
the fuck are you here?
Right,
just every
time. I've seen you for a month. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But those people, they're either big shots at some company, sold some business, whatever. There's people there with knowledge at the track in the paddock that have knowledge and experience, and they're positioning at certain companies. I mean, there is walking B2B deals. Every parent you race, the kid you race against, is a B2B opportunity. I mean, granted, obviously there's probably more selfish reasons for them to be there. Obviously their kid or whatever is racing, but still, if there's somebody that can make $1 and it can help you out at the same time, we're racers at the end of the day. We're there for each other. But there's networking to be done there that's never done. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of missed opportunity, and there's a lot of new opportunity with something we talked about in the last episode, just new ways of thinking, fresh, young blood thoughts on how to bring outside sources and sponsors to an event. Like, even last year, we had a potential partner of ours come to Rock Vegas and Supernats. And the same guy, so he'd never been to a go-kart race before. And this, us telling him, hey, come out to this one. This is the biggest 2 races of the year. So he comes out to Rock Vegas. He's standing on one of the bleachers with me, and we're watching the race. And he looks around and he goes, man, that Vortex and Levanto, those companies must have spent a lot of money. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm thinking to myself, no, man, they're the ones that put the event on. And he goes, well, look at all their banners out there. I mean, man, that's a lot of advertising. They must have spent a lot of money. And I'm like, no, man, that's the promoter. That's all owned by the guy promoting this event. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, there's so much opportunity. That's free. That's advertisement. That nobody's paying for.
Well, and especially things like,
mind.
Dude, the live streaming stuff is going to change that world so fucking fast, because really I mean, not only is it beneficial just within the paddock because of the way that the karting community wants to support people within the karting community. Like, I know with Stars, we don't order a single consumable that doesn't come from someone connected to racing industry. Right. So like businesses and business owners within the sport, they want to do that. But even when you look at, like the live stream stuff and the numbers, I mean, I can't speak for everyone's, but the live stream stuff from Stars so far this year, if you're getting tens of thousands of views, every month, it's people who are maybe end consumers for products that all of a sudden it's open windows of opportunity for drivers who are trying to build relationships to take them through, the ladder, or even just for drivers that are trying to pay their bills at the go-kart track.
Yeah, well, 100%. Where else can you go to, like, in terms of like the spectator side of it? How many events can you go to where you get to see racing all day long? Exciting, like even if you don't know the drivers. I mean, if you've never been to a go-kart race, like it's amazing.
100%.
The first time I went to the first big race I had ever gone to was when I was team manager, was Rock Vegas, and I was blown away because to me, I grew up in motocross and road course stuff, and that's impressive stuff. You see all the rigs, like you run with these big teams, and it's all there, but it's all televised. There's a lot of support behind it in motorsport to make it a big televised event. When I saw Rock Vegas, I was like, this is insane that there's not a concert here tonight. This is insane that there's not 1,000-person bleacher somewhere here where people can actually view this. And it was even crazier to me as the weekend went on. My buddy lives in Vegas. He's like, I had no idea about this. Because I could probably get 100 people to come down and watch this race that have no idea what it is. If there was some type of midway, if there was a way to make this make sense for businesses to come outside of the sport and into it, and there absolutely is.
Yeah.
To do that, but it's a community effort to make that happen. I think there's a major opportunity for that if the community can get together on how to leverage it, especially. And I think the big springboard for that was the live streaming for sure.
Yeah, 100%. That was like the thing that was in the way, I think. I mean, most of the time, at least up until the last 4 or 5 years, if you saw a big company on the side of somebody's go-kart, it's because they own the company.
Right.
Yep.
Like the one that always comes to mind. I mean, like you see guys with like Fixie or Motul or Burger King, and it's because they have, franchises or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that opportunity, companies like Rep coming in and creating those deals is going to help to make karting more of a staple of like, this is, it's as entertaining or more entertaining, like you said, to come to a go-kart race versus something like a GT World Challenge or IndyCar event. I mean, the racing, if that's what you're into, is badass racing, like go-karting's where it's at.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I love IndyCar, Formula One, all that stuff. I'll watch it till the day that I die. But if you said you can go watch the best, shifter car drivers in the world go out and race at any given track, I'm going to pick that 100% of the time. It's just better racing, and it's more exciting. Even though there might not be money at stake or careers at stake, I took my brother to see shifter cars for the first time. I mean, it blew him away. He's like, how is this not something that everybody watches? This is the most exciting thing he's ever seen, and he grew up racing just like I did, I mean, motocross is incredibly fun to watch, but I'll pick shifter carts any day of the week.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we've had this talk a lot, like Race and I, just like you said, on road trips or bullshitting at a racetrack about like, why is there so much less of a barrier to entry for motocross than there is karting? Is it like, why is it that, I live in an area that's pretty rich in like outdoor sports and stuff, and I hear dirt bikes all day around me and none of them know what karting is. So like, why?
I think it's a twofold thing. I mean, growing up, and you can do this in karting because we did. I mean, obviously I had races support and a lot of great people in the community. Once you get into the community, it makes more sense. When you look at the original price tag and understand there's a little bit more of a learning curve because the education's not out there. You go buy a dirt bike, you don't have to work it all the time. You don't need to get new tires constantly. But, I mean, you can go get a 206 and it's pretty dang close.
Yeah, you don't with a go-kart either. You know what I mean? It's just kind of what we end up doing.
You can go, we got involved in that way, and I like doing that stuff, and that's the way I was raised. But you can go get a go-kart and wheel it, and go race it at your club. But I think the big difference in the business model from motocross to karting was, motocross leveraged, first of all, a lot of money came in to help market that sport. But motocross has a product that the race teams are marketing.
Yeah.
So, Honda sells dirt bikes, and guess who sponsors the race team? It's a Honda race team.
Yeah.
And I think that if the manufacturers of the go-karts can get on board with this idea and make that part of it more sustainable in terms of the marketing of the sport, it's going to take a lot of people to come together to make that all work and understand the differences between motocross and between karting. But it's the same basis of a platform that could work, and there's definitely differences, and there's, the barrier entries may be a little bit different here and there. But I think if somebody just wants to go race go-karts at their club, it's no more expensive than racing motocross for sure. And you're not going to break your knee every other week.
what can you I mean, what can you get a 206 for? Like, realistically, if you're buying somebody's leftover whatever, if the goal is not to have new shit, it's just to go have a go-kart to race, you can buy a roller for $1,000 to $1,500
Yeah.
pretty reasonably, and buy a used motor for $500, and you're in the sport for $2,000, and that's
I
about
was
what
just looking
a
at
dirt
used.
bike answers.
Yeah. I mean, the used dirt bike market right now is incredibly high because there's so much demand.
Yeah.
And I think go-karting's in a cool position because it's one of the only things that isn't inflated in terms of the used market, right?
Yeah.
If you really want to look at the data of it all. But I mean, I think that it's the same thing. If you just want to go do something cool and you want to be part of a community, and then if you get into it and you want to scale it from there, fine. When I raced dirt bikes, there was everything from having a completely pieced together 65 that we worked on constantly, that was an $800 bike, to when I was racing a pretty much factory built 450, and it scaled as I went through my racing career. So, I mean, you can do it on any level that you want,
Yeah.
I
so,
think that's what most people in karting like skip that exact part of it. Like, there's so many people that get into karting and they go 6 months, a year, and then they enter a USPKS race, and you're like, well,
what the fuck?
that guy's got this and this and that, and they just start coming up with these excuses, and you're like, no, dude, like, at the end of the day, you're bringing, you needed to start at a level, like in motocross. I also grew up racing a little bit of moto, and you always went to your local track first, and they had their own Saturday races, and there was novice, intermediate, and pro, and you always entered beginner or novice first, obviously. You had to win 2 races or 3 races, and they bump you up. Granted, they have, it's just different because they don't have the class structures we have. We have so many options for the same age groups that we can't create a pro, intermediate, novice. We kind of do that already with the engine package. So, like, most kids would start with a 206.
Yeah.
The only unappealing part of that, which has always been like Billy Musgrave's main argument, he always thinks like, no, more power is sexier, and that's why people buy dirt bikes. Honda sells more 450s than they do 250s. And that's kind of always been the motocross mentality and how it has worked in moto. But the same guy can just go ride that 250F slower, and then as he gets faster, he moves into a different class. Here in karting, we end up changing engine packages and chassis to move up the ranks of the karting ladder, I guess you want to call it.
Well, and in fairness, like, motocross is a little bit different, just in the sense that, like, it's a lot more rider and a lot less motor in motocross compared to karting. I mean, just in general, like, the parameters of a 125 2-stroke is what I grew up riding. But let's say like a standard intermediate class is going to be a 250 4-stroke nowadays, right?
Yeah.
There are differences between a KTM 250 and a Honda 250 or a Husqvarna 250, you know what I mean? With like the way the bike comes onto the power and top speed and things like that, just right out of the box. But in a dirt bike, you can turn a similar lap time depending on your riding style on a motor that's incredibly different power band wise or even power wise.
That's changing pretty quick though.
Is it?
My brother still races. He's a top level B, mid level A rider,
Okay.
and we had a 125cc 2-stroke that we built to the top, and you can't compete on it, right? So then we got a cheaper 250 for him and tried to build that thing to the top, and it could not compete with, he would go out and get on his buddy's brand new KTM. So we just scrapped it and got him a brand new KTM, a factory edition.
Yeah.
It's the only way for it to make sense. So that's changing. I mean, there's definitely that the technology aspect took longer to catch up in motocross because I think that they were being smart with it. But that also being said, I mean, to fix that problem, you need the engine builders and the manufacturers to kind of come together on a package that makes sense to level the playing field, right? I mean,
in theory, that's what they're doing in Europe. I mean, in theory, that's what the OK platform and the KZ platform are. It's like, here's your 2 packages. Fucking figure it out. These are the parameters. Build the motor.
Yeah, and I love it when engine builders go crazy and build a crazy fast engine at the top level. Like if you're racing, super nats and you're racing, racing for any championship series where you're traveling across the country, you're trying to win stars, like build your engine, like, come on,
Yeah.
but if there's, it shouldn't be this major deficit in spending. I think that as soon as we get into the one guy can spend $100,000 and then the other kid who's just as talented, they can afford $15,000 for the year, and there's no chance, that he's going to beat that kid. That's when people start to get deterred from the sport. But unfortunately, those two guys aren't going to change their situation. That the one guy's not going to stop spending that money on his kid's go-kart so the other kid can beat him. It has to be done at a higher level from the series, from the manufacturers, to look at motocross and say, this is why that worked for so many years.
Yeah. Well, I think the other reason it works, and again, another conversation that's been recent in karting, is I feel like the industry is much more open in motocross. Like it is. There's so many more opportunities for you to create and build a business in motocross. Like when you buy a dirt bike, when you buy a brand new one off the showroom floor, it is not anything like the one you see on TV racing. Not one bit, not even down to the foot pegs bolted to the bike.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody manufactures each of those parts, right? There's 10 different handlebar companies, 5 different grip companies. There's a bunch of billet aluminum guys that make shiny stuff for your dirt bike to bolt on. Like there's so many opportunities to improve and upgrade and down to suspension guys, engine builders, exhaust companies. Like there's so much room for the improvement of the piece itself. But in karting, like when you buy a brand new OTK, honestly, you look at some of these, all the go-karts nowadays, I mean, really, there's really nothing you're going to do as an add-on to your go-kart. Like there's nothing to improve because everything is already magnesium, everything's already light and weight, everything's already done for you. It's almost like I wish karts came with 0 pills in it and aluminum stuff and just bulkier and shittier pedals. And there was a guy that made a badass pedal that bolted to, there was a universal bracket for it. You know what I mean? Like there's just no industry growth in karting like there is the UTV market or the moto market for people to come in and do that, down to even engine building. I mean, you can't, there's engine builders, there's plenty of them out there, but they're more like engine assemblers at this point, and the only guy making the money is the dude selling them 25 cylinders to put on the flow bench and dyno. And I mean, if the dude could just take the damn Dremel to the port, he could make them all fast, and it would you'd make a little extra money. You'd be a little more satisfied as a customer. You could, but the budget's always going to stay the same, which is like what I don't feel like people really understand. Like when I raced KZ at the top level, like we were spending $100,000 a year to go race shifters at the top level. But I remember also turning around and going to the CKNA Grand Nationals and buying 5 heads, fully prepped heads. And that way, literally every day I put a fresh head gasket, a fresh head on every single day. I bought 50 new pilot jets because they get clogged up. So every session I just put a fucking new one in because the budget for me wasn't going to change. I was going to win that race with the same budget that I was going to go spend to win a Pro Tour race. So,
but to the customization side, like all that stuff, that wasn't in karting. That wasn't in motocross forever. I saw that a lot of that stuff develop as I was a child, like get more and more and more as the industry changed to what the consumer wanted. And that's the problem that I see. I don't see as people come in the industry saying, well, this just is the way that it is.
In karting, it went the other way, where like you used to have cool like wild kart made like trick hubs and pedals and like cool shit like that. And now if you show up and you have something other than OEM parts on your go-kart, it's like you'll probably get made fun of. Like it's just not the standard anymore.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like nobody wants a custom suit. They want like the genuine
team
OTK suit. It's the craziest thing to me.
Yeah, everyone's go-karts look the same. Everyone's, like it's become your only thing to set you apart is your helmet.
Yeah. Yeah, and the gloves. Maybe your gloves.
Maybe the gloves.
Yeah.
Which there are some fucking dope. Like everything -273 is doing right now, all these like promo launches with like I just saw one that's like a shark mouth on the side of the glove. Just a little shout out to those guys because they're definitely
they're sick,
constantly stepping the game.
There's a lot of cool stuff coming out. I mean, and I think you're starting to see people you know, like even our brand, I mean, it's a lifestyle brand first, and you see guys like Offset and Wareheim's Deal, Minus. There's a lot of guys like popping up into the lifestyle of karting and motorsport, and you're starting to see that, at least that side of it, flourish a little bit. But you know, when it comes down to like making an aftermarket, there's nothing you can even make aftermarket for a go-kart. Like we tried with Taika for so long to develop a new axle, and we did, and we run it a lot in our product, but it's like nobody's got the balls to just, not even the balls, like they just think like, oh, well, if it's not an OTK original product, like it doesn't work.
It's too out of pocket.
It doesn't even make sense. Like I've put PKT axles in my karts. Like there's plenty of people making parts for go-karts in America that are much more innovative than even what the Europeans are up to.
And that Taika axle is interesting because it's like it's got the insert. So not only is it supposed to be a higher quality metallurgy, the blend that goes into it to make it last, because I guess, some teams are like hucking axles after a weekend. They're like 3 days of racing, it's done. But it's because of the quality of the metal that's used in these production axles. So like Taika has an axle with a different, chemical makeup to it to make it more durable. But then it has these titanium inserts that go in, lock into position, and they're unique side to side. So you can like tune the go-kart different on different sides of the chassis. And like the insert goes in and basically like through the third bearing, or through the bearing cassettes, the hangers. So it's basically stiffening the axle across the part of the go-kart that's working. And like Ray said, nobody buys it. Nobody's like, oh, hey, this is amazing. And if you want to make an axle adjustment, all of a sudden you don't need to be a mechanic. Like you can just pop the hubs off, slide these things in, and nobody's biting the bait. Yeah.
Do you think that the reason why that hasn't changed though is because maybe the spectator side of it, because it's like own niche economy, right? It's sustainable things. These companies are doing well in this world, in the karting world, but until you bring outside people in and you get spectators and the live streaming blows up and other money's coming in, I don't see that side of karting, whether it be customization or whatever you want to call it, ever grow. But there's no real need to do that. But like, even for example, like go look at a Parts Unlimited book at a motorcycle shop and look at all of the different helmet variations in painting you can get. Now, I love the custom one-off paint jobs, but it's expensive to do that.
It is.
Right? Like my kid cue balls it. It's just because guess what? That money goes to tires.
Yeah.
So, and that's just is what it is. Not that she won't do that sometime, but if there were options out there that were cool, like I'm sure that she would buy a Lando helmet if there was a paint job on a helmet out there she could buy. I mean,
I think the only company that ever did that was Bell with the Lewis Hamilton stuff.
Yeah, Bell had a couple, and I still see them.
Yeah.
O'Gara wears that like a Bell special edition helmet that's just painted from the factory, which I know, I'm sure they have a relationship with Bell being there in Speedway, but
I think Zamp does that, and then Stilo's got a small detailed children's helmet that has the American flag on it or whatever.
Rossi has like
motorcycle
variations
helmets
of these.
Yeah.
300 variations of these.
And then AGV is selling. Yeah, AGV is selling the fuck out of them because every motorcycle guy wants to have that helmet.
Yeah, I do. To Jackson's point, like the problem with any of it is in the real. We all have these hopes and dreams with how we can grow this and build it, but the reality is it's still such a small market because the piece it's missing that can never be compared to motocross is you can go buy a dirt bike and I can ride it down the street and in my backyard and around the corner in the woods, and you can't do that yet with a go-kart. And I say yet because I think as soon as there's a real electric outdoor model, I think that will all change. But until that point is in the future, it is still fragmented. Like I've had an idea that I've wanted to work on for so long about even just getting they have like the Formula SAE programs in colleges, but doing something like that with karting for a high school. But like a high school parking lot on a Saturday when there's nobody there is big enough to host a small go-kart race with a Briggs. You know what I mean? Between high schools. Like that's doable.
Well, and I think though, another barrier to entry for karting. Like you said, you can ride your dirt bike in your backyard. With karting, most people think you need a tow vehicle. You need a truck and trailer, which also, not a lot of people in the karting market, if they have a truck and trailer, they bought it because they got into karting.
Yeah.
And a lot of tracks have indoor storage and stuff, but that's not something
Dude,
people
you can
know about.
fit a go-kart. I have raced out of a Scion XB before. Okay. It takes a toaster oven and that's it. You can fit a whole go-kart in there. You got to get creative. But I just went racing out of a minivan the last 2 weekends in a row.
We got Kennedy's KA in the back of the Equinox.
Yeah. I mean, you can go racing and whatever. I've seen dudes put carts on the roofs of their Corollas.
Yeah.
Like, it's not hard. It's doable. So you don't need anything, which is kind of cool. But it's no different than a dirt bike in that aspect. You got to tow it around somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you can fit in a pickup truck. I mean, you can do it in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't think that the transportation of it is really all that different. I mean,
I think
you want to get crazy with it, you can.
I think the biggest barrier to entry is not having the availability to finance something like that. Like, for instance,
maybe
in reality, if you could finance a KA package is probably $8,000 with a Micron strap to it, right? Like, give or take.
Yeah.
So you got this $8,000 investment, which is again on par with a motocross bike, but you walk into a motocross dealership and you can finance the thing. I mean, it's $180 a month, and
with a crazy good interest rate too. I mean, it's not like you could put a go-kart on a credit card, but you're going to be paying 20% interest. You go finance it at a dealership, you're at a bike at a dealership, you're getting 3-6% if you got decent credit, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few shops like you mentioned Musgrave earlier, and I know it's probably, if there's anyone who has the insight on the motocross industry, it's those guys. And they seem to sell a lot of new shifter cards to people that aren't already in the sport.
Yeah, he's got kind of a niche thing going with ties, so many deep ties to the moto industry. There's dudes left and right, as much as motocross is appealing, and it is probably, in my opinion, the sexiest sport on the planet. But past that, it is hands down the most dangerous sport on the planet too. And with that being said, I mean, there's guys that you ring your bell 5 or 6 times and you can't ring it again, and once you do, you're done. So there's a lot of these guys that have these injuries that are young and really young, coming out of motocross and looking for some other adrenaline rush. And honestly, like, all of my friends growing up in Southern California were motocross racers, and I loved sticking them in a shifter cart because most of them picked it up right away, and it was the same exact adrenaline rush that they craved on a motocross track.
Yeah.
So he's getting a lot of those guys that are getting into the sport for same reasons he did. I mean, Billy broke both, I think it was one or both of his femurs or something crazy, and that was when he had to start calling it quits.
I couldn't play catch with my dad as a kid because of motocross injury. He couldn't lift his right arm past 2 inches.
Yeah,
I still have problems from it, like massive. I've been in the emergency room 20 times, all because of motocross. I mean, and then that was the big decision too. When Kennedy said she wanted to, I'd taken her to the dirt bike. Like, this is cool. I'm like, you're not allowed to race a dirt bike. You're just not.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it. I mean, I can't. I went through it enough as a kid, and I'm glad my parents let me do it, and I love it. I don't know how they did. Like, I don't know how they put themselves through it. I just loved it, and they didn't want to take me out of it, and I said, look, let's race go-karts, So Kennedy's never been on a dirt bike, and hopefully never will be.
Dude, when we were just in Jersey, we could hear a dirt bike track from the kart track when we were setting up. And so we went over, and it was like right across the street. We ended up going over there to check it out. And it's just like jump, 90-degree turn, medium berm, and then like split rail fence, and like no barriers or anything. And it's like
nothing.
The split rail's like 2 foot off the outside of the berm, and then going how New Jersey fucking went, it was like, it blew my mind that they have all these fucking state rules with motorsports in New Jersey,
and you can do that in motocross, like.
Motocross, they just kind of like accept. They're like, these fuckers are gonna die anyways. I mean, if you fall, your traction pad now. Like, if you fall down off a jump, you're just getting run over. Nobody's getting out of the way. Like, it just already comes with such an inherent risk that it almost surprises me that more moto guys don't. Yeah, I mean, more moto guys should definitely end up in go-karts, I think.
100%. I mean, if it were more, it was known in my family, I would have totally done that. You know, I like the road course stuff, but anyway. But I mean, even road course stuff, like on a road course bike, which isn't as popular as motocross, you was still going around corners at 120 mile an hour, dragging your knee on the ground, and high siding was terribly bad. Like, you know, you get hurt, get wrecked. So
Was it like net code on the sim? Like,
what's that?
Net code.
It's like net code.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't sim race with Race anymore because every time I do, he just takes me out.
Christian can't catch me. Christian can't
I'd like to
catch
see
me.
that actually.
Listen,
we actually did.
We
had a competition in Joe's basement at his house, and I thought it was just going to be between me and Joe, because I mean, there's no way.
Look
Tubby
at me,
can drive.
Because fucking look at me, dude.
Yeah, Tubby can't drive.
I believe in you.
Well, he got on there and
I believe in myself, bro.
He wheeled that thing as if there was a fucking prize, a pack of Twinkies or something at the end of the finish line. And
there's a skinny kid in there somewhere, dude.
Yeah, he's got a skinny kid heart, but a fat boy tummy.
I remember what it was like many moons ago. Yeah, dude.
We gotta find a picture of Christian in a suit when he was skinny. I've seen him, and his head's the same size.
That picture's out there. I'll
you
make
guys,
it the background on my phone.
I'll pull it up right now. We can't tell anybody. You guys keep talking. I had fucking long hair too. Can you imagine that, dude?
No.
Long hair. I swear to God.
We gotta see this.
Yeah,
I have
you guys
yet to see it.
Yeah, you guys talk about something else. I'll bring it up.
Something else. Yeah, I mean, we might as well get into why I wanted to have you on here, talk about how, you know, different creative ideas that drivers can have, and really not just drivers. I mean, we talked a bit about how we're trying to bring outside customers and clientele and sponsors to karting, but really the reason that we're able to start branching into that and hopefully start seeing some success with that soon is because we've created a new way, a new outlook on how to market within motorsports in general. Like, and I think that's because karting has been somewhat forgotten about once people step into the realm of, you know, IndyCar and sports car racing and IMSA and things like that. But it is where most of the fan base sits. I mean, I can't go to a go-kart track any weekend that somebody doesn't even have some sort of attire on from another professional racer. You know, you see so many Red Bull hats with Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton hats and Jeff Gordon hats and things like that, shirts that the parents are wearing. So they're all race fans, obviously. Like, this is this is the core demographic, race fan, that most of them are already marketing to through the professional ranks. I mean, you're only really banking on, I would say, maybe 50% of the audience, if not less, is general public. The rest of them are avid race fans or racers.
Yeah, and it's even hard at those levels for businesses to justify. They see it at a base level and say, you know, why would I spend this amount of money to put a sticker on a car? They don't realize, you know, and that's kind of where Rep came to life, was on, it's not about your sticker being on the car. It's about the opportunity you can have with clients at the racetrack. And that could be anything from Formula One all the way down to karting. I just think that the ability to use these as networking events and business to business experiences is really where the leverage is that helps, you know, motorsport grow and make it more sustainable, but also pull karting along with it, you know. And I think that, you know, we saw that in Nashville, just what we did with racing the TA2 car with our partners there. I mean, we had a great time with them all weekend. And, you know, I had a hard time wrapping my head around it for a little while because I hadn't been to a TA2 race, right? And I hadn't been on that side of it. I knew what I did in music, and that's a lot of what we did for music. People would come sponsor these music festivals, and they would bring all their people and the people they wanted to close on a deal to a concert that we had put on, or a music festival. They'd have a VIP area. They'd have free food and drinks all weekend. They'd get to hang out with the artists. They would get to go on the stage, see the whole process. Any part of the day, those sponsors could be involved in this incredibly complex business structure. and see how it all worked. Well, it's the same thing with racing. I mean, you can bring your clients instead of going to a golf course and see something that most people don't get to see and be involved in it, hang out with race car drivers. You know, whatever you think about them is fine, but you know, you bring your clients, sell them at the racetrack instead of the golf course. It's a much cooler way to spend the day.
Even like bridging the way we could bridge karting into that is like, you know, for instance, the partners we put together to put Nashville together. And I've had so many people pull me aside and go, dude, how did you string that all together? How did you guys do this? And really these are the ways we did it. So for people looking to take that next step and thinking that they're out when they're out of money, there's opportunities out there to make this stuff actually happen. You just gotta, it's much more than just your performance behind the wheel and the image on the go-kart or on the car. So much of it has to do with the B2B stuff on the backside. But like a small thing to introduce any of these people into karting is simple. We do corporate events for these guys and put a deal together where we spend a day with them at the kart track doing rental karts. Like that's an easy intro for people outside of karting and still in love and involved with motorsports to now get a hands-on piece of it and to actually be and experience where it all starts and how.
Then they get to drive, they get to be on a racetrack. And, you know, normally a lot of times people will sponsor a car. They never get to get in a car, take their whole team to a go-kart track. They get to be involved in motorsport, the sport that they're sponsoring. And then, you know, they also get intro to karting. I think that, you know, bigger level motorsport, we could utilize that more. It would help it all along for sure. And I mean, I think it's working great for us so far. You know, I mean, it worked in Nashville and we're expanding for 2023 and the opportunities are rolling in every day. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And there's new ideas coming from, like, I mean, Christian, we talked about a lot of ideas in Nashville and things that I'm learning about in different series that work better for B2B and how to maybe move some of those ideas to different series and you know, race being in a car all the time and being around it. I was just shocked. It was so similar to the music industry. You know, the music industry does really, really well. And then they expand it out to a spectator base and grow that side of it. In racing, I think that, you know, the B2B thing's super strong. And if we can utilize that to trickle all the way down the ladder from IndyCar to karting, you can unite that whole community and make sense for businesses to be involved, which is basically what we're trying to do with Rep.
Yeah. There's definitely programs that lend themselves more to, you know, schmoozing clients or bringing, you know, star performer. If you're doing the B2B thing and you're entertaining customers, like my time with the GT World Challenge, dude, at least my like internal impression is that that's like 95% of what the GT World Challenge is B2B deals. It's just a place for, you know, people who are motorsports fans that have race cars to go and take people and have relationships. And like you said, have relationships with other people in the paddock who also own businesses and have things like that they're involved in. I think that that's something we could do better in karting too.
Leverage that out to the spectator side of it. I think that's what's missed a lot is like one section of motorsports really heavy on this and one section is really heavy on this. Like you can utilize that B2B side to grow the spectator side of the market.
Yeah. True that. All right, stop beating around the bush. Where's that picture? Right, let's see it. Skinny Christian.
Skinny Christian, dude.
Wait, where?
Which one is it?
Fucking blonde one, dude. That one right there. Skinny Christian.
When is this?
Listen, that was Scusa Great Lakes 2009 or 10, probably.
What?
Yeah. I finished, I think, second in Pro Shifter, and I got Alex or actually it might have been Kurt Mathewson. So Kurt Mathewson, who's with, I think he's with ANSA now, and his son Cole races, but I'm pretty sure Kurt Mathewson won that weekend. He still can drive. He's definitely master's age now, but that was not my natural hair color, but I did have hair on top of my head. That's not a fucking wig, bro.
Maybe that's why it's all gone.
It's possible.
You bleached it to death.
My brothers were bullies, and one day they pinned me down and shaved my head, and it never came back, dude. 100%.
Seriously? It never came back?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was a victim of family hazing, which I mean, I get it, dude. I probably deserved it. I was a piece of shit when I was like 17, but yeah, 100% never came back.
That's when you went bald.
That's when I went bald. I just fucking gave up, dude. I started eating Twinkies and I stopped. No, actually, dude, it was a snowboarding accident. I fucked myself up on a snowboard and didn't walk for like 6 months. And that was yeah, my dad did it on a dirt bike and I did it on a snowboard. I guess it's one of those things.
It was hereditary to get into.
For sure, dude. I was fucking broken too. And that's why I think go-karting's so cool, is because like it is an action sport, but in general, you're not lying to people when you say it's a safe sport. Like it really, the safety equipment, especially now that like insurance programs aren't fucking on top of the whole neck brace thing. Like the helmet technology, as long as you're not, nothing bothers me more than that parent who's spending like $4,000 to bring their kids to a bigger event on the weekend and they've got $150 helmet on their fucking kid.
Yeah.
It's like that drives, as long as you're not that asshole, it's a pretty safe sport.
Yeah, that part baffles me. Like, dude, buy a cheaper go-kart before you buy a cheap helmet. Like, it's the only thing keeping your kid's brain working.
So dumb.
And Race will know this. People have picked on Kennedy's helmet left and right, but it's a super safe, high-end motorcycle helmet that's been tested to the nuts. And I was able to get that stuff for dealer cost. So I went with that rather than, because we didn't have the budget to go get a Stilo or something, and that was just cheaper for us to do, and to save some money. But it's like the highest level testing you can have in a helmet. And the helmet technology is great, It's kind of goofy looking, but it works, and that was my thing with safety. So
it's surprising to me that like one of my favorite helmets when I raced motocross was the 6D, and that helmet has like shocks in it, like these little absorbers and stuff. And there's so much like technology, even like Shoei has probably one of the most technologically advanced motocross helmets as well. And these companies like have never come out with a racing karting helmet, and it's the same, it serves the same purpose. It just literally needs a different looking shell.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked that they haven't. I mean, granted, I guess that's again the same talk we've just had, is like the industry is too small to accept a specific brand.
And that being said, you can go buy a motorcycle helmet that is safer and cheaper than most karting helmets until you get into the expensive part. It's just another difference in the industry.
It's just
you gotta. Dude, the fashion contest is real.
That's exactly right. But it's because there's 100%. I completely agree with that. But it's just a difference in the market.
Well, and all the like at this point, every sanctioning body has the same specs on helmets. Like the insurance company basically provides that requirement. It's just the Snell rating. So as long as your helmet has that Snell rating, in theory, it's passed the destruction test. But that doesn't mean there's not a difference between $150 Zamp and a you can buy a composite Arai for $450-$500.
Yeah,
like not the carbon fiber one, obviously, but still the safety of that helmet is going to be so much different. There is, like Ray said, it is to some extent you've got to look good, right? If you look good, there's less pressure on you to be fast.
Hey, look pro, go slow. That's what I always said.
Look pro, go slow. That's pretty good.
It's worth 2/10 if your helmet's painted.
It is 100%.
But you can hand paint it and it's worth 2/10. It doesn't know any different.
It's so hard for I mean, there's literally like going back to marketing with like the SCUSA guys is like they won't post a picture of a white helmet, which is like I get it, because the thing that they're selling is like this is the top of the top, like this is where all the monsters go to compete. But I to an extent, I understand. It makes it hard when you get rebels like Jordan Musser or Colin Daly that are just like winning constantly, but they're just like, cue ball.
My favorite is Kardashian's helmet. Have you seen that one?
It's like half and half, right? It's like half painted.
So he just did like the side going up it, and then it falls off on the back. So it's like this corner. But that dude's had a white Bell RS7, I think it is, forever.
Yeah, the one with the big wing, right? The one with the big rear spoiler.
And it's got this giant duck bill on it.
Yeah.
So he finally got I guess everybody pressured him enough to getting it painted, and then so he just got just a sliver of it painted, and the rest is white.
So
and
funny,
it's
dude.
done by Octane, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like that's just a giant like fuck
That's
you
hilarious.
to that.
Yeah.
I love that part of the industry though. Like that's seeing people's different takes on their helmets is pretty cool. That's one of the things I really do enjoy about karting is how people express themselves to their
What do you
helmets.
mean?
There's
None of
some
them.
cool shit
Most
out
of
there.
them don't. Most of them just go to Lucky and be like, I just want it to look Euro.
I know, but then every now and then you
Yeah.
see that one. I mean, it's
Dude,
how many people are
honestly,
gonna be that creative with it?
the stuff that Ryan Rudolph's doing right now, like I agree with what you're saying. I think there's a couple helmet painters here in the States that are also they're doing stuff that's unique to them, but it's like, all right, we fucking get it. Like that's the shape you paint on a helmet and the way you bevel it.
Yeah.
But like Ryan Rudolph is one that like he just, started recently, but like your helmet, AJ Myers and Andrew Bodoso have like matching Magic helmets that are pretty dope.
Yep.
That guy's putting out some dope shit.
Helmets are pretty good. Yeah, I think he just did Jordan Musters too. So he like if you pick it out of a catalog and you're like, I want these 4 colors and that's it, like whatever, then like, dude, I the ones I love are like when people express themselves in their lids. Like even the Mad 56 guy, I can't remember where he's out of.
Massimo Dante.
Yeah, dude, that guy's stuff is gangster.
So like, dope. And he designed some of the minus gloves too that are dope recently. Yeah, that guy, dude, just the fucking attitude as a driver. He would like he would come across the line if he won a race and he would like have like, are you listening? He'd like put his arms, like just the celebrations were dope. Big nasty mustache, like it's fucking rad, dude. And he expresses that style in his helmets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of his logo is actually the curly mustache.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one before.
Oh yeah, he's
a good follow. Yeah, there's so many talented guys in Europe, but like you said, I mean, cheers to Lucky, I guess, for like paving the way with that style. But now it's like you either call Lucky Designs and half the time you get a helmet that's already painted that they just put your fucking name on the side of it, or you go to any of these other guys, which 90% of them are just copying what Lucky's already done.
Well, it does amaze me like how many people nowadays have painted helmets, because like growing up, I was that kid with the Shoei from Chaparral that was pre-painted. Like that's what we had. Same thing. We can buy a new set of tires. Like my dad would justify it that way. This is 2 sets of tires and we can only buy 8 sets of tires this year. So like, do you only want 6 and a nice helmet, or do you want this other helmet that looks cool and whatever? Like as a 10-year-old, you don't know any different. You're like, I'll take that one. So
of course.
But there was so much more of that, so much more of the cue balls out there, or the carbon fiber, raw carbon helmets, or whatever. Like it was less of the paint jobs, and now you see kids in like micro and like their first race ever in a kid kart, and they've got this dope painted lid, and you're like, damn, dude.
In fairness,
way different.
I was about to make a joke about how dumb that is, considering kids go up helmet sizes every like 2 to 3 months.
I was thinking the same thing.
But honestly, dude, if you have the means to do it, like one of the coolest things in the world to me is like the Bailiff family in the lounge at MCC has shelving around the room with all of their helmets in order, like starting with Sean Bailiff, the owners, like go-karting helmets, and then you can see like the evolution of the style of helmet and the evolution of paint jobs, and then with Gavin and Finnegan's helmets, like if you've got the money to get painted helmets, know, all that, dude, how dope would that be to just have a room just filled with lids?
100%.
Especially when you're really doing it that way, where it's your thing. That's what I like to see. I mean, I know a lot of them are similar, but you can see one that someone's put thought into that's their own thing. And that's
Sean
what I love about it.
Yeah, Sean has a signature. Like, I think it's Gavin that has it now, but it's like that zebra stripe thing on the top of the helmet. That was like Bailiff's calling card. So that's always cool when you see that. Or like Verstappen has the arrow that comes down and out, or Connor Daly has the arrow on the side of his helmet that he got from his dad.
Yep. D. Felipe. He's got the star on the side of his helmet on every one of them. Yeah, you got to have a signature. That was like that's honestly my own goal with mine. Like I never had a painted helmet as a kid. I was the cue ball forever. And ever since like I got my first one, I'm like, dude, this is like my this is my favorite thing ever because it was not something that was tangible as a child. Like it wasn't going to happen. And now every year I feel like I want to get a new lid. And obviously like I have a great partnership with Stilo, so they kind of helped me make that happen. But I just like I took one design, I've given it to each helmet painter, like, dude, do something wicked with it and just see what you come up with. Because that's my goal one day, is just a shrine of like lids that were the same generic signature on them, but something that I can see a different style and an evolution in, and maybe they tell a different story every time to go
This
forward.
is really making me want a helmet, and I think I know what I want. Race, I want you to design me a Luther vibe helmet for when I run Masters.
So if anybody, that's funny. We had that on the topic list and I never brought it up. So as put together Jackson is right now, there's probably multiple people that are going to watch this show and be like, dude, I've seen that guy screaming at the go-kart track one time or another and just waddling around in a Race Factory shirt with a water bottle in his hand, because that's what he does.
Yeah.
So so if anybody hasn't seen Key and Peele, which is a comedy skit show, they have one where Barack Obama has a angry translator because everybody knew Barack Obama as being very poised and just very calm and collected when he spoke. And this guy has his angry thoughts, and his name is Luther. And so
That's Jackson.
Jackson is like my Luther. Now, obviously, like I'm very vocal as it is, but when I'm in my own heated situation that I'm personally attached to, I've worked really hard to try and stay a little bit more calm and quiet about some of it, because it's definitely bit me in the ass in the past. So I'm telling Jackson about this lack of a penalty. I believe this is during the Brandon Lemke incident. He dumped me pushed me out wide and off in a pre-final and got no penalty for it. And I'm bitching about that because I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, if they don't want me to go out there and police my own problems,
which you did,
because there was
we've all seen the video,
because there was no penalty assessed. There's a penalty assessed. He served his time. Like, that's his deal. And it's not about punishment or whatever. It's about right and wrong. And to me, so like I'm voicing this opinion to Jackson, and I'm actually being pretty calm about it. Like, I didn't do anything crazy even after the incident because I wasn't actually that genuinely pissed about it. I was just more or less like, all right, now I'm going to navigate it my way. And Jackson starts freaking out. I'm like, yeah, man, he's like, what the hell was that? And I'm, explaining to him what happened. And then I'm like, and no penalty. And he's like, what in the F? And he just goes off. And I'm like, yeah, it really sucks. I'm just kind of pissed off about it. He's like, pissed off about it? I'm effing mad and this and that. And he's great. And I'm more calm. Like, I'm calm. And I'm like, calm down, Luther. Easy,
I've never
Luther.
got to explain myself on this.
Yeah.
Nope.
Never.
Nope.
Never got to explain myself on this. No. In a public eye, I guess. I don't know what it is. When I've always been very calm in most situations through music. When shit would go wrong, I never got bothered. I never got worked up. I was usually pretty cool. There's something about being at a go-kart track, specifically when you're working with your friends and people that you care about. So when they get in a situation, I get 10 times more pissed off and can't control myself, and I have no idea why. I'm working on it.
He's getting better.
Listen,
I think it's just because all it's been fresh and new to him.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a high adrenaline situation and very reactive,
It's one of those things, like, as a team manager, to some extent, it's your job to fight your team's battles for you, or your driver's battles. That's who you're representing. I can tell you that from the other side, dude, like, nobody wants to talk to you after every session. Not you in particular, but like, if you're that team manager, if you come up, like, for the most part, we understand if you're heated, as long as you don't like fucking talk about my mom or something, like, we can come back from it. If you're, because it is, like you said, it's a high energy situation. Like, when you're at the racetrack,
you're good at that and understanding that, though. Like,
man, I am a punching bag at the end of those weekends. It's just like, I guess it's good that I'm good at it because it all comes my way. But to some extent, like I said, we understand why people are elevated and pissed off, especially if you get them like right after an incident or right after something's come up. I think I would prefer someone come up to me once in the weekend and be like, hey, bro, what the fuck? Over like that fucking team manager that comes up politely after every session and is just like, hey, did you guys see this issue? Or what do you And it's like, dude, I've talked to you 10 times today. What are you doing here?
Well, I only went that many times that one weekend.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even that many. It was one big time, one big conversation.
No, it was
over.
3. We went 3 times.
3
You
times
sent
is
me-
even
no,
okay.
no. To be fair, I caused a lot of shit, so we had
did.
to go. We weren't voluntarily always going. we had.
True.
It was, man, that was effed up. I mean, we had that whole incident Saturday with all those guys, and then Sunday.
It was
end up they give me somehow they declared me the winner, and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna go over really bad because I definitely deserve at least 2 penalties. And
at least you knew.
Yeah, no, I did. I looked at them. I was like, get the fuck out of here. You declared me the winner. And it just so happened that karma bit me in the ass for my 2 incidents, and I didn't mix enough oil in my fuel, and I got bounced anyways. So
it all worked out.
It all
dude.
worked out. God worked it out for us.
Yep. It happens that way sometimes. It's kind of nice.
I always try to check on you though, Christian, because that we hadn't, as team manager, I hadn't managed the team with an event that you were at until like later in the year. I'd already been in enough situations to know, like, and we were already like friends anyway. So I was like, well, hey, you doing all right? Everything okay? Check in,
right,
you know, for everyone watching, check in with your race officials. It's very important. Take them, you know, take them a cigarette or something, you know.
No cigarettes here.
Especially not at NJMP either. You can't do it on the grid.
Dude, when they
what
bounced,
happened? I didn't hear about this shit.
Oh, man, I think we already, you know, I'll keep it short and sweet, but basically the communist state of New Jersey Motorsports Park fucking like was trying to bounce people from the event for vaping on the grid, and
while the person enforcing that is sitting, so you couldn't sit on the barriers or stand on the barriers or put a foot on the barriers. You couldn't vape on the grid, and you couldn't wear flip-flops. Literally caught the staff there sitting on the barrier, vaping on the grid multiple times. The same person kicking people off. And they literally said, well, it's different. We work here.
It was a fucking
that's communism
for me.
Yeah, dude, it was
exactly how it goes.
I mean, we'll never go back. But yeah, it was one of those things that I guess that weekend was especially, and I got to tell you, that was maybe the easiest weekend for interactions with the drivers and parents and stuff. I think we had one parent
all on the same side.
Yeah, they all knew that we were fucked together. Everyone kind of got screwed out of that one.
Well, why did they know that? Because
of Discord. Yeah, because we're transparent. Yeah, I think that's one of those moments where that's really important, where like everyone knew exactly what was going on. And, you know, if I can't explain why we're doing something, we haven't thought enough about why we're doing it yet or what we should be doing. Yeah. So like, you know, going out into the paddock and explaining to everyone what was going on. And, you know, it's unfortunate. We literally had drivers from multiple different countries. Like that weekend, we had a winner from the UK and a winner from Canada, and I think a winner from South America. And it's one of those things where like people are traveling from so far away to run these events. And then when a facility takes away your ability to run the event, basically I don't see how anyone's ever had.
That's a great example of something that I've learned and tried to be better at and not be a Luther as much unless I absolutely have to be is, you know, sometimes you can go to the official and just talk to them. They're probably aware already of what's going on. You know, like in Newcastle with you, like in the K senior class, you know, shit was getting hairy. And I was like, well, first of all, I already had a relationship with you in the first place, but that made me realize, like, I went up and just like, hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, but let's be realistic. Let's start this off with any time we race at Stars, and I can put this to rest forever with everybody because it pisses me off every fucking time. We get worse treatment
100%.
Being friends. Doing this together fucks me at a Stars race. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Way worse. So let's start off. We are already behind the 8 ball every time one of my team members or I are involved in an incident at a Stars race because it's automatic.
Pretty
like,
true.
well, we actually have to look at the other side first before we even talk to race.
When go to Christian, like, and it wasn't even somebody that happened with our team. It was just dangerous. You know, it was just dicey. Like it wasn't. It was just something that I thought it was just chaos. It was
they were being assholes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's no. You're right though, Race. Like no, because at Stars, we don't want that shit, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is you have a thing to do and we never want to put you in that position. And that's the point. But I think from a dealing with race officials, period, you could probably just ask a simple question and they probably already know what's going on.
Dude, you
I've
could
learned that the hard way.
you could
know?
probably fucking a gentle flirting dude. I'd basically give you anything you wanted. Like, just fucking be nice to me. Like,
I went
come
over
up
to,
and be
hey,
friendly,
man, how
dude.
you doing? Good. I was like, and I said, hey, K Senior, dude, I'm already on it.
Yeah. And we had one of those. So there was literally only one incident with a parent at Jersey, and it was a junior parent that it was the first race session of the weekend. It was Heat 1. And this particular parent, we did invite privateers to our team principal meeting. So there were a couple of privateers that showed up for us to explain stuff. Like, one, it's all in the rule books, and the rule book is fucking 14 pages. So there's not that much to know. You should know it. If you're responsible for a driver, know it. If you are a driver over the age of 7, read the fucking rule book.
Yeah.
But we went over start procedures, and one of the things that we don't do at Stars is we don't wave off starts unless they're unsafe. So we do that because, one, if we're waving off starts as a driver, I'm gaming the first start every fucking time. Like, if I know I get one start, you're going to wave it off, and I'm going to hope you fuck up, and I am going so fucking early, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we take away that option. We just pass out penalties. And also, if you're waving off starts, that's the number one reason a program gets behind schedule. So we've created this system where drivers know exactly what we fucking expect out of them at the start. And if you play games on the start, you just get a time penalty. And it's super easy. There's no argument. They're all on film. Yeah. You know, we film the start, so there's no question about it. And usually the first start of the weekend, if there's someone on the front row who's maybe new to the start box and hasn't run like a SCUSA or Stars event, they fuck it up and there's a penalty. But the driver on on pole got jumped super hard by off pole at the start of this K junior heat. And the dad of the pole sitter is screaming at the head flagman for not waving off the start, like screaming over the fence at him. And I heard from a distance what was going on and started walking towards the grid. And, the dad's yelling at the flagman, and the flagman just kept repeating, like, we don't wave off starts. We don't wave off start. And the guy just was hauling off. So I get to him and I'm like, I can see him, and he looks at me and I'm like, hey, come here for a second. And he starts freaking out on me. He's like, are you telling me to come here? Are you doing this to me? And I was like, dude, I was literally. And he ended up coming to me very elevated and leaving aggressively and not listening to what I had to say. But what I was going to tell him was I have an earpiece and they already called the penalty. So what I was going to tell him is you're freaking out on officials that literally did their job and assessed, if you would have just stopped for 2 seconds and listened to me, I could have changed your mood. You could have gone and enjoyed the rest of your kid's race. And in fairness, the guy went out of his way to write an email to Stars to apologize. And it was very genuine, which I think was important. And like I said, I understand that people get elevated at a racetrack. But at the end of the day, most of the times the things you're upset about, if you don't have a Stars earpiece in, you have no idea.
No idea.
Those guys, when we're at an event, I have an earpiece in just monitoring what's going on. If something obviously debatable or something that needs a discussion happens, that's when Alec and I jump in. But for the most part, there's 5 to 6 people on the racetrack in lifts or on the surface that are the best in the country. And I say that not because they're at Stars, but because they literally work every single karting event across the US.
Yeah.
And the chances are they already caught it and they already said something. So you're freaking out about nothing.
Yeah. So start your conversation with the race official with the question,
Yeah.
And then if it goes from there and there's an argument to be had, I mean, I still don't agree with doing it in a screaming way. I've obviously had my experience being that guy, but I bet if you ask the question, they're probably already aware. And then from there on out, it's a protocol issue, and go get your video. If they're not aware of it, get the video, go from there. I mean,
and if we're wrong, dude, we're the first ones to flip on it. If we're wrong,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's the only way, again, to be consistent is you have to not only admit when you make mistakes, but making those mistakes, that's the only place we learn. So you have to, be transparent with people and have these conversations to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
and have the accountability to learn from them.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, there's so many
Or you'll
people.
end up with a nickname like Luther.
Yeah. Yes, you must learn.
You must learn. That's great, dude. That's a fine way to end a podcast. Be nice to your race officials.
That is a fine way to end the podcast.
It is a fine way. Maybe next time you go to a racetrack, shake an official's hand and say thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
ya.
Appreciate
Take them
you,
a
bud.
bottle of water.
Appreciate ya.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might be
please
willing to
don't-
have a conversation with about a penalty if you're kind to them.
Please don't hand any officials cigarettes. That
Maybe,
was terrible advice.
Maybe you know. Does anybody ever get anywhere with a cop when you like the dude rolls up to your window and you're just like, "What the fuck did you pull me over for?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
What do you want?
Exactly, yeah.
What do you want from me? Instead of like, "Hello, officer," hands on the steering wheel. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to kill you. I am not a bad person. Like, I feel like if you roll up to the officials, like, "Hey, man, I know you guys made this call, but I'd like to discuss it," you might get a lot further than like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah. I've got so much PTSD from weed being illegal that I just immediately put my hands up and like, you got to be as polite as you can be, dude.
Oh my god! Only in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a good
it's
reference, though. Yeah, yelling at a cop never does the job.
never.
Yeah, well, they're the police in this instance, so kiss
Yeah.
ass a little. Learn how to kiss a little ass. You might get
Just
somewhere.
ask a little. Jackson, where can people find more information on how to get involved with Rep and what Rep's doing?
I mean, right now we're building the website, so I was actually working on that a little bit more today. There's going to be more stuff coming out in the near future. Right now we're working on running some TA2 stuff next year, so we're going to have a lot of information coming on about that and about what Rep does, along with the deal with him. But if you're interested in getting involved with Rep and you think there's a conversation to be had with your organization or your race team or your kid's program, and even if it's as simple as consulting with you on how do we help your kid develop the business acumen to attract sponsors and building decks and the PR side of things, just shoot me a message on Instagram. It's the Jackson Gardner on Instagram. For now, it's a good way to reach out, or Jackson at racingentertainmentpros.com, or reach out to Race and in the many ways you can reach out to him. So on
many.
Instagram or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we're growing a lot of things and have a lot of projects going on right now. We're happy to take more people on board, but there's going to be a lot more information and programs coming out really soon on how more people can get involved, and hope to see some stuff at the kart track soon that involves Rep and the karting community that we're going to try to pull off as well. So,
and Race, just to clarify, your email is race@ibroketolate.com, right? Or
it's actually race at netcodeerrors.com.
bro, I know, dude, that was the funniest when we were having that conversation. You were like, dude, I net coded in real life last weekend.
Yeah, myself did it all by
I don't
myself.
get the reference.
Oh, sim racing.
And
Racing.
sim
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've got a lot of cool projects, so please keep in tune on the Rep side of things. This is a business that we created for the next generation of professional drivers, and to help from the grassroots side of it all the way to the IndyCar, NASCAR, sports car side of it, and just create a healthier environment for motorsports. So if any of that is entertaining to you or it fits some of the plans you guys have, please reach out and see if there's anything that we can even do to consult and help with.
Yeah, if you're a driver that's bringing in sponsors and moving into cars or anything like that, and you're trying to find a way to add value for those sponsors to come into the sport, whether it be karting all the way up to IndyCar, definitely reach out to us. We have some cool stuff we can do to help you out with that.
Hell yeah. Well, it's been another great episode, boys. As always, to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to send us some love with likes and comments. Share the stuff so your family and friends see it. And please don't cancel us. See you next week.